There we go. Okay, there we go. All right. Hello,
Uh,
Frank.
Yeah, second item, funding requests and Hancock County Commissioners. I believe, Derlin, I saw an email from you today confirming all of this.
Yep, I sent the copy to Mike today, and I'm gonna put the original in the mail, so we should be all set and start having the check arrive to get the check, so.
Right. And now we just have to wait for Spectrum to do the work, right?
Well, we're almost there. On May 20th, I'm gonna have asked for permission to sign the contract. We've got the final
good.
contract back that both Spectrum and we have done, and then we're up to them. It's up to them as to their timetable, but we'll have all of our work completed here in a week or so.
That's super. Great.
Yeah, I'm pleased with that.
So now, Susan, thank you for bearing with us. For those of you that came on just in the last minute or so, we're lucky to have Susan Corbett with us. She's with the National Digital Equity Center, and she's just going to share some thoughts she has in our quest for our next phase of this committee. So thank you, Susan, for coming.
My pleasure. So I am Susan Corbett. I am the Executive Director of the National Digital Equity Center. The National Digital Equity Center was founded in 2018 to help close the digital divide here in Maine and across the United States. We've raised several $1 million for Maine and its people to provide free digital skills classes to all Maine residents. People can take as many classes as they wish. We work with communities and organizations on affordable device programs. Some organizations will raise funds for devices for the people that they're serving. We are proponents and advocates of affordable broadband. When the FCC Affordable Connectivity Program was active, we were one of the grantees and helped people across the state sign up for that benefit. We also have a digital data program and that are out in the communities working and meeting people at libraries, helping them get online, helping them learn how to use devices, facilitating classes. We have a partner on-site program where we train a volunteer at a location. So I see that beautiful room that Kathy's in. Somebody might hold a class there, and we bring in the instructors in over Zoom. So the classes are in two ways. People can take classes online, or we work with a local location to hold the classes, have a facilitator, and bring the instructors in over Zoom. That can be very helpful, especially with older adults who are learning technology for the very first time. And then we write digital equity plans. So I've written probably well over 60 or 70 plans for communities across the state. I was the consultant for the state of Maine Digital Equity Plan and worked with 13 regional and tribal broadband partners across the state to develop countywide the digital equity plan. So there is one for Waldo and Hancock County that was done by the Island Institute. So that is out. I don't know whether you've seen that yet, but that is available, and I'm happy to share that with all of you. So that's a little bit of a background of who we are and what we do. So when Kathy reached out to me, she talked about what is it, how to read a bill, how to get online. So today, so there's a couple different ways that communities address this. And one is that we write a digital equity plan for them, or with their committee, and help develop a plan to identify the barriers to affordable broadband, the barriers to affordable equipment, to digital skills training, to public computer access. What we know is that the number one reason that people do not subscribe to broadband is affordability. And the number two reason is tied. It's between affordable equipment and this digital skills. I'd like to be able to get online, but I don't know how to do that. And so we try to address all those components at the National Digital Equity Center. today we have the classes, the partner on-site classes are free. So if we can find a facility to host those classes in your community, we could start those classes anytime, right? And those classes could be things like learning how to use a device and learning how to get online safely. Classes are broken into 3 different curricula. So there's classes for work and business. So think about like all the Microsoft classes, Excel, PowerPoint, Word, Outlook, how to build a website for small business, how to manage social media for small business. Then there's a curricula for home and education. We did a lot of classes during the pandemic for teachers and for parents of students of learning how to use Google Classroom, Google Meet, and all the Google tools. We do internet safety, lots of internet safety. We have 5 different types of internet safety classes. And then the third is called Aging Well with Technology. And we developed those classes actually pre-pandemic, working with New England Telehealth Resource Center and the Maine Council on Aging. And these are classes that are geared for folks 50, 55 and older, although anyone can take any of our classes, doesn't matter what age they are, it's perfectly fine. But the classes are protecting your online presence, creating safe passwords, protecting yourself from fraud and abuse, identifying fake news. And then there are classes on how do you video conference with family and friends like Zoom, or how do you do a telehealth visit with your provider? And then there's apps to manage your healthcare, and there's so many different types out there. So we have a whole list of that's been vetted of people who want to monitor their blood sugars or blood pressures or medication or weight or exercise. So those classes are free for all Maine residents. So, they can, you can certainly promote them and people can take those classes online, but maybe one of the starts is to find a place and start doing those digital, have the class on and start that process. I'm going to stop there because that was an awful lot of stuff I just threw out at you. So
Any questions of Sarah? Susan, I'm sorry. Any questions?
Susan, I would just like to ask, for example, if you've got a couple and one has, does all of the computer work and the other doesn't know anything about it and doesn't know even what apps and stuff, and the partner that does know it passes away. So assuming that they're doing all the banking and all that sort of stuff, what would be the first phone call that person should make to say, help, I don't know what's on here and I need to find out and need to know how to use it.
So let's say one spouse has been paying Bangor Hydro online, right? And it's going to their email address on their computer. And, there's a username and password to get into the computer and the spouse doesn't know it, right? And so they're no longer seeing the bills. The first thing they're going to need to do is call the utility company and tell them what's going on. Not unusual for the utility company or other vendors to say, well, we want a death certificate, right? And so one of the skills is, does that person have an email address? Do they need an email address? Do they know how to get online? Do they know how to upload the death certificate, right? And so that they can move the process quicker versus mailing a death certificate in. So for all couples giving that person the access to if they each have their own computers, how do they get on? How does it get on to, a spouse's computer, a partner's computer? What's their passwords? I know I have a file for my children that there's a code to get into my computer. There's and so I put that in a document for them so that what I did is I created a Dropbox for them, an online file that have all of my documents, my wills, my power of attorneys and all of that, and the code to get into my computer. right? Because once they're in my computer, then it's as if I'm in my computer. So those are sort of the, protecting yourself so that somebody else has access to those important those important emails that are coming in.
Well, that's great advice. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's an important skill, I think, going forward, sort of, to organize your estate,
Mm-hmm.
like you've just suggested.
Yeah.
That,
Exactly.
and you do classes on that, yes?
We have, the classes are more like in the particular skills, but like once somebody knows how to, we have classes on like how to put things in Google Docs. If you have a Gmail address, you can put documents in Google Docs, right? And then share them with maybe family members. So there's those type of classes, or classes to develop Dropbox. How do you share? There's free Dropbox accounts. How do you use Dropbox and then give access to other people that you want to have access to those documents. So it's not necessarily that you're having a class to say you want to get your estate in order, but it's the skills to get your estate in order. I think is really what's important.
Mm-hmm.
Susan, with your work, I'd be curious. Have you looked at a lot of different communities, and is there somewhere that is really like a gold standard for what kind of community support they offer for digital equity that you've tapped into? Or
So I think that all communities should have their own digital equity and digital inclusion plan. Okay, and in that plan, it becomes very specific to that community. My gold standard for all the plans that I've done is the town of Bremen. In town of Bremen, they had a broadband committee, and then that broadband committee morphed over to, or not all, but many of the members morphed into the digital equity committee. And we worked over a period of 4 to 6 months to develop a digital equity plan that was specific for the town of Bremen. Bremen was very serious about their plan. Now, what goes along with the plan, and so the things they wanted to do is they wanted to raise money for devices for older adults so that they could stay connected with family and healthcare providers. And so we developed a plan with a line item in the budget for devices for older adults. They also were very concerned about the low-income families that may not be able to afford a broadband connection. So their broadband providers was LCI Telecom. Their fiber to the home project for all of the all their homes in Bremen. And there was an installation cost. If you've heard this before, more than so many feet off the road, and Spectrum's going to charge me $1,000 to connect. You've heard those stories, I'm sure, or worse, much worse.
Yeah.
So Bremen was aware of that. So they wanted to make sure that they had money for out of the non-standard installation and for affordability. So we worked with Bremen on a plan. The town allocated $25,000 for an affordability program. And what we did is, so NDC becomes sort of the gatekeeper and middle person on this, because they didn't want is a family to go to the town office and say, here's my income and I qualify for this program, because it's based on income eligibility. And they wanted to protect the privacy of the resident. And so they could get referred to us. The LCI would refer people to us. And what we did is we established this affordability program for Bremen residents. LCI, we worked with LCI and said, get us a deal for our Bremen residents. And so we did. They gave us a $30 a month package for a 50/20 connection, which happened to be the subsidy from the FCC ACP program. So that meant that for many Bremen residents that met the income eligibility guidelines, they were paying $0 for their broadband subscription every month. Well, now we're looking at ACP going away, and there's money in the funds because they've only used it for a few installations for people who met income eligibility guidelines. So there's still a good amount of money in that pot of funds. And so ACP is going away, and the town of Bremen is now going to authorize us to replace the ACP subsidy, pay LCI directly, and those families that were under ACP and paying $0 continue to get that subsidy at least for the next year. So that's where, a town really stepped up and said, we don't want to leave anyone behind. And they came up with the criteria. So the first criteria for anyone, once they met the income eligibility guidelines, we weren't sure how far this money was going to stretch, right? They said, we want to make sure that the priority is for families that have children in the school so that the students are not left behind, that there's not a homework gap. So that was their priority. A family that had children from kindergarten to 12th grade that met the income eligibility guidelines would be qualified. They were the first tier that would be eligible for this program.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
We've had Krista Thorpe join us at meetings in the past, and she is from the town of Bremen. We could probably get her town report there.
Absolutely, absolutely. She was spearheading a lot of this, but the committee themselves, they dug in on that digital equity plan, and Henry Goldberg is the chair, and he's always looking at grant opportunities that are out there, applying. Once a community contracts with NDC to do the digital equity plan, I pretty much stick with them forever, right? Because they'll get funding, or they want to apply for funding, and they might come back to me and say, what do you think? Can you go look at this grant application? But Henry and the committee continues to look for ways to raise funds for those line items in the digital equity plan budget.
Have you seen any engagement by banks on any of these financial things? I mean, I keep thinking, if you're going to tell somebody how to get in here and it's about people's money, you have to be so careful about who's giving out information and how accurate and how much can you trust that. So I wondered about bank involvement in helping guide them into how to use Venmo and how to connect it to your bank account, et cetera. So, well,
the same thing, if you hand somebody your phone, it now has all of this personal, financial, everything. You can do thumbprints and face recognition, but if you think about that phone, it's pretty powerful, the information it's carrying around with you. So pre-pandemic, the average, this is an abysmal percentage. Pre-pandemic, only 4% of bank customers used online banking.
Wow.
Right. And I couldn't believe it, like 4%, right? Now those numbers have changed. They've certainly, the pandemic changed a lot of the whole banks were closed. We couldn't get an appointment. They came up with how do you deposit a check with your phone, et cetera, all of those nice, neat tools. At one point we were talking to the Maine Credit Union around developing a financial program, but it did not go anywhere. I would love to work with a bank that we've offered to do this and said, you bring your people in, we'll bring our people in, and maybe we can develop a class for your client, for your bank customers to get online safely. Because a lot of that too, it comes back down to those basic digital skills classes, creating safe passwords, taking internet safety classes and making sure that you're getting online safely, right? Older adults going online for the first time, it's like a kid in a candy store. There's all these great places, right? But not necessarily good. So, but we would love to be able to work with a bank and develop a program. I think that would be a fabulous, fabulous pilot to do.
Okay.
Yeah, great idea.
Okay.
So one thing, and I don't think this is possible, but the company I work for, whenever I have a technical issue, all I have to do is make a phone call to a service, a technology service, and I get someone almost immediately on the line, and they can even get on them. They can even do screen sharing with me, right? And it's
Mhm.
just a huge, huge support. And I don't know if it's probably not possible for the general population for that, but I just think about how handy that is and how that might be helpful for people. Have you ever heard of any communities doing that or?
Communities haven't done that, but what some communities will do will recognize a local trusted resource for technical support. We do not have enough tech support
Yeah.
people across the state of Maine. It's, you get your computer, like, the one with the blue screen of death, and like, what do you do with it, right? If there's not a tech place that you can bring it to. It's on the radar for Maine Connectivity Authority, right? And can we train people to become tech support specialists? At the Passamaquoddy tribe in Indian Township, we actually held a class called Technical Support Specialist, and we trained 10, they could be from high school up to, in their 30s, so young people. We
Mhm.
trained them on how to become technical support specialists, how to work with their community members. So, go back to that smart TV, right? I get a smart TV. How do you hook it up? How do you find the username and password? They're asking questions. You have no idea what they're asking if you've never done this before. Or setting up a home network. And you have a router, and how do you set that router up? So we've done training for this whole new job description of technical support specialists. We're expecting we're going to see more of that across the state. Township was sort of a pilot project. I know that the other tribal communities are really interested in doing that because there are people within the community that are helping their community members.
And
That's great.
that's a steady work if you're trained at it.
Yes, yes.
And you can charge for it, as I'm sure whomever's helping you, Scott, or has helped me in the past, same thing. It's like, that could be a
Well, absolutely. Well, it's smart homes. We don't have, again, Maine's rural, so we don't have geek squads from Best Buy at our back door, right? And so, if you have a smart home or you want a smart home where you can have remote thermostats or cameras or security systems and all of those things, if you're sort of skittish around technology, you're afraid you're going to break it. I don't know what they just asked me to do. What do you mean I have to call their tech support line? I don't even know what I'm doing, right? There's sort of that, especially for, older adults, this is not what they're used to doing, right? This is all brand new for them.
You want a son-in-law for that.
You do. Or grandchild.
Yeah, grandchild, those things.
I've got a son-in-law for that, so yay. And an old house. And we have a dumb house, not a smart house. Yeah.
Any other questions for Susan?
No, but it does start me thinking about, the simple technology. I want to create a little notebook for people to have that have headings about the oil company, the electric company, the bank info, so that people can say, here's my password, here's my book, take this if I die, and use this to get into anything.
Yeah, so I have a spreadsheet. It's password protected, but my spreadsheet has different tabs. There is the usernames and password that I use for the National Digital Equity Center. There's the usernames and password that I use for myself, right? Well, think about every time I've gone online to buy something in a different store, it's a different username and password. And so they're literally, what happens is that you accumulate hundreds and hundreds of usernames and passwords.
Yeah.
And it becomes really confusing when you then have to update it, change it, they say change it, and then now they've got 2 steps authentication where they're going to send a text to you or maybe an email. It's really confusing out there. And how do you manage it? There are there are password management programs out there, but you still, it's hard. It's
They're
really,
not easy. Yeah.
they're not easy. They're not easy to manage. They're not.
Hmm.
And what happens, like you said, with the whole, hacking prevention or whatever, it's just creating more multiple steps for people to do what we used to do much simpler, much easier.
Agree. I had, 2 years ago, I had 5 people who I was very close to and was executor of 5. They all died within a year. And, the very first thing I said, give me their laptops, right? Because the laptop was the key to getting into all these sites to get things moving very quickly. And that was the absolute key. And it wasn't that, like, if I wanted to go in to their Gmail account, for instance, I go online and I enter in their username and password, it's gonna come back with 2-step authentication, it's gonna send an email or there's all these different things. The other thing is I didn't shut cell phone off right away because of the 2-step authentication, right? And I was prepared because, after one, you start to learn your lesson really quickly, right? And then, but having access to that person's computer was key to making the job easier, to close out accounts, to shut off, electricity, or to cancel a credit card, right? You can't, if you just call the credit card company and say, I'm Susan Corbett, I'm canceling the credit card for Mary Jones, who I'm the executive, they're not going to do anything. Or you're going to send in all this documentation to make it happen. So having access to someone's computer makes the job easier.
And their
It
phone.
makes me think this is a crazy idea, but when you think about people, what group spends the most time with people at the end of their life? It's hospice. And maybe there can be an educational piece around that where, they're helping family for them. Maybe things, not that most people in hospice right now, maybe they're at that point yet, but it's just going to be more and more as people age out. They're going to be,
Right. And if they don't have family, immediate family, and somebody has to figure this out for them, right?
Yeah.
That's a scary thing. And if you've been named as an executor on someone's, you don't even know where to start if you haven't had access to any of that information.
right.
Yeah. There's so
Well,
much to consider.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Susan, thank you so much for your time today. Unless people have any further questions, we should let her go.
And
Thank you very much.
Oh, you're very welcome. No
Yeah.
additional resource, reach out at any time. Kathy knows how to get in touch with me. Happy to help in any way we can. And, but thank you for letting me join your meeting today.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank
It's
you.
very helpful. Thank you.
All right. You all have a good evening.
Thanks.
Yeah. Take care. Bye.
So I don't believe, Kathy, I see anyone on the Tremont Broadband Committee unless you have an update.
No, haven't heard anything.
Yeah. Next steps, I think we had talked about maybe if we want to take the summer off. Is that right?
Yeah. What do you think? I'm good with that.
I'm good with that. I think everyone usually has a much busier schedule during the summer.
And I think if there is something that pops up, we can always call a meeting when
Yeah.
needed.
Yeah.
Well, I think this digital equity thing really is food for thought.
Yeah.
And I think I'm getting the idea it's a lot more important than I realized for our community. So anyway, but okay, we can do it in the fall.
And in the meantime, though, I am meeting with some folks from Bar Harbor Bank and Trust. I could ask them what they do. I think I've talked to Lisa about this a little bit, but to see if there's any interest in a bank actually helping out with all of this. It would be in their interest as well. And maybe there's a bank association that could, I don't know, help fund it for everybody. But between them, hospice, and Acadia Senior College, we might have the natural groups around to help do something that makes good sense and is practical and sustainable, you know?
And I was thinking, she mentioned enough things that I think that we might be able to say we gave a class once a month, that I think there were 12 different things in there that we could cover.
Yeah,
And that might be very useful.
yes.
And Kathy, your work with Mount Desert 365. I remember like the years I was in education, I was always on the board of course, I was principal of school, on the board of the library, and on the board of neighborhood house, because I felt with the way the town Mount Desert is configured, is mostly populations in our satellite, what I call satellite villages, right? And the more chances we can get people together,
Hmm.
that maybe we don't solve the housing issue, maybe we don't solve year-round, but I don't know, or there's a long-term goal. But in the meantime, as many opportunities we can get people together, I felt was invaluable,
Yes.
And so maybe that's one of the legs of the stool, if we do digital equity, where we can bring people in and educate them, but it's a community event, it's getting people together as well as teaching them skills.
Yeah. And we would be happy to do classes in this room behind me here.
Yep.
We have built in good technology. So
Yep.
we have 2 television screens. We've had lots of hybrid meetings in there. So we have an owl like the town office does, et cetera. So it is a good facility, good space for classes. So
Yep.
to make that available.
And that's just another way in which your organization is helping
Yes.
to
The community as a whole. Yeah,
sustain community. Yeah.
exactly.
And I do believe she mentioned that the broadband committees of other towns morphed into digital equity committees.
Absolutely. You're right.
I'll reach out to Crystal Thorpe from Bremen and see if she would share with us their town report. I have seen some of the things that she talked about. The Island Institute is one of the partners with the Maine Connectivity Authority that is working with different communities to create plans. And so I don't know if you remember, Amber Blum was one of the other people who joined our meeting one time or another from
Yep.
Island Institute, and was working on the digital equity plan for Hancock and Waldo County. So I think that we can see what's included there, and if there's guidance for us on that as well. So
Great.
I like the idea though of having a third party handle the holding of the money and the distributing money, so that there's no stigma attached with somebody who's a different income level that can't make their goals, et cetera. That's kind of a nice thing.
Yeah.
That was good.
Kathy, at the town meeting the other night, first of all, Derlin, good job on everything. You were talking about Fidium.
Yes.
So maybe take 2 seconds and talk about what we've learned about where Fidium is coming from and things. And is there, and I've missed a bunch of meetings, but is there anything that we want or should find out a little bit more, or have one of us volunteer to test run how Fidium is? I don't know.
Well, did you see the poster I put up there?
I did not. I'm sorry.
So, Fidium Fiber is under the umbrella of Consolidated Communications, and they provide fiber optic lines to the premises. And that's sort of the offshoot of Consolidated, which otherwise has our phone service. If you have a phone in this area, it's coming from Consolidated Communications.
Right.
So they own all of the poles in the area that they're covering. And we know that for anybody doing an installation, pole attachments are a huge part of the expense. and the time of doing this. So the idea that Fidium or Consolidated already has, they own the poles and they already have connections to the houses. So to put up, to extend a fiber along their network is the simplest thing possible, but they really want to do it where they know there's an interest. And so it was actually Mia Thompson, you'll appreciate this, Lily. I saw her at the Chowder Festival that the Montezart Nursing Association had at the neighborhood house. And we were talking about digital stuff and Fidium fiber. And I said, people should go online and sort of pre-order their fiber. And she said, well, you know what? You should tell everybody about that. Get the word out. I'm like, okay, that's where the town meeting comes in. Because there's no obligation. You go online to fidiumfiber.com and you let them know that when they are providing service in your area, you would be interested in having them do that attachment to your house so that the house is ready to connect to that service, whether you take it or not. What I have heard of people who do have Fidium fiber, it was twice as fast at half the cost of their cable company.
Wow.
It's a good, consistent thing. It doesn't wear down because of bandwidth of other people in the house or the neighborhood using it. It's sort of unlimited. There's no data cap on it. And it should be reliable and more affordable than what we're getting from the other current provider. But I also think that as a matter of competition, it benefits if there's two options, they should each do their best service because they want your business. And so it might help them be pushed to up their game and do a better product, better service, better price point. So that's why we're trying to encourage everybody to do Fidium, just to sign up for it. So going online to fidiumfiber.com and just saying, here's my address, and do we have service or not? And when it's available, I'd like to know about it, and I'd like to sign up for it with no obligation on my part, but I would allow you access to connect your fibers to my house.
Can you spell Fidium?
F as in Frank, I-D-I-U-M.
Thank you.
If you want, let me see if I
Frank,
can.
you might want to try it at your house in the park. See what you get there.
Okay, I will.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Yeah,
good.
it's good to be back, everybody. I gotta say. So I'm sorry.
I just put my address in and they said they can't find it. The town, we have a new name for our road and that's causing great fits for me because Google Maps hasn't made the change yet.
Yeah.
And I keep getting, for example, Amazon, I get a message 2 or 3 times now from someone who lives on Sergeant Brook Road, Judy Benson. She says, Scott, I got a package for you delivered. So
Scott,
I don't know when Google's gonna.
Scott, will you do me a favor? Kathy, we're not recording anymore because this is just regular chitty chat, right?
Okay, well, let me pause recording then.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Okay, so
So when should we meet again? We will not meet for June, July, August?
Yep. I think right after Labor Day, why don't we touch base with everyone? How's that sound?
Yep.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, anything else? I think we're finished.
Good. Do you need
Thank
a
you,
motion
everyone.
to conclude?
Sure, I accept the motion. Yeah.
All right, I move that we end the meeting.
Second, I second.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye.
Yay.
Opposed?
Okay.
All right, everyone have a great summer. And I'm
Thank
sure
you.
I'll see a lot of you around. So
All right, bye-bye. Take care.
thank you.
Everybody. Bye.
Thanks. Bye, everybody.